We all know Pac-Man, right? Well, do you know the history of Pac-Man? Pac-Man is a great game, one of the most popular of all time. But what is the story of it? Pac-Man was created by Toru Iwatani in 1980 in Japan. To be precise, on May 22nd, it was first placed the machine and arcade cabinet into the Shibuya district of Japan. The district is a bustling business center with lots of pop culture and video game and anime themed stuff and businesses. In North America, it was also published by Midway Entertainment, and it was also more popular with girls, surprisingly, than boys. One of the few arcade games to do it, promptly releasing Miss Pac-Man after this fact. Pac-Man, most people know how to play it and how it looks, but just in case you don't, Pac-Man is a game played in a square in a bunch of mazes trying to eat dots, and if you eat all the dots, you win. There's also a bunch of ghosts trying to destroy your sprite to make you lose your first of 3 lives, and then you basically have to keep going until all the dots are 8, and you can eat ghosts with a bigger dot. That turns them into blue little ghost type things, and you can eat them and raise your score even more. Pac-Man had many ports on many different home consoles such as Atari, Xbox One, Xbox 360, Game Boy Advance, NES, and PlayStation 4. Pac-Man is one of the oldest arcade games, and has one of the best legacies. It was released in the Gamers edition of the Guinness World Records book in 2008, the top 8 records. At this time, it was also not known, but one of its best players, Billy Mitchell, was exposed for cheating. Billy Mitchell is the very frowned-upon player in the Donkey Kong and Pac-Man and just retro video game scene as a whole. Billy Mitchell, let's just make it clear, has lied, cheated his way to the top, and it will never be a true video game player of the century. I just wanted to get that little snippet out of the way because it's a very convoluted, and I recommend if you want the full story, go to Carl Jop's videos on Billy Mitchell. Pac-Man Fever was in the 80s, of course having its own song, Pac-Man Fever, by the same name. It also funnily had its own breakfast cereal, shirts, alarm clocks, clothes such as t-shirts and pants, and it also had its own Saturday morning cartoon TV show created by Hanna-Barbera running from 1982 to 1984. Pac-Man has also appeared in many films such as Adam Sandler's 2015 movie Pixels that I really liked as a kid. In 1982, Milton Bradley also released a Pac-Man board game. But without ado, the merchandise section is going out. A perfect score of Pac-Man is 333,360 points. Okay, I know I said I wouldn't talk anymore about Billy Mitchell, but I thought I would say one last thing. Billy Mitchell's scores were considered the first perfect score and verified by Twin Galaxies until it was then later revoked. Some of Pac-Man's technology's processor was a 3.072 HCZ processor, 16 kilobytes of RAM. Of those 1 pieces of RAM, it was used for static, video, and color RAM. There were also 2 custom chips on the board. There was also another famous TV show to have Pac-Man on it, and one of the Futurama episodes created by Matt Groening, also the creator of The Simpsons, and the episode Anthology of Interest 2. It should also be noted that Futurama also had Donkey Kong in it. Pac-Man had its own TV show that I actually liked as a kid, where Pac-Man was a little weird looking, and it had its own little band of characters along with its own ghost. They were the same name in the video game. It's an alright show from what I remember. If you want to watch it, you can go check it out, but it released in the 2010s, I believe. So yeah. It's not too important, but I thought I'd still bring it up. The main artist who created the Pac-Man sprites was Hiroshi Ono. Some of Pac-Man's most famous players, dare I say, consist of Billy Mitchell, even though he cheated. Also, Steve Wiebe, the crew king. I consider Pac-Man the best player. Also, I consider him the video game player of the century and the king of video games, or retro video games. And you also have Robbie Lakeman, who's another big player in the competitive Pac-Man scene. Last thing I want to say, Pac-Man was a worldwide hit. Like I said earlier, Pac-Man was actually more popular with girls than boys at the moment. It was also huge in America and Japan. Fun fact about Pac-Man in America, it was riddled with malls in America, so popular that almost every kid in the US had played it in the 1980s. It had its own song, like I said earlier, Pac-Man Fever.